This is a monumental day in crypto, a day that will go down in history for Bitcoin, and I am honored to share it with you as all 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs have been approved and are now live trading, and we've had $1 billion come in the first 4 minutes of trading. It is absolutely crazy. This is such an amazing day, and I'm honored to be here with all of you, and if you've made it through this far, congratulations on one hell of a decade in the best asset class in history. So this is really cool. Today I'll be going over just exactly where I think Bitcoin will hit as far as price targets in the upcoming weeks up to the beginning of February and how you should play this, because the question on everybody's mind is, what now? As euphoria is in the air, altcoins have pumped 10 to 30%, and you may be sitting there wondering, what is the next move? Well, you should be, because crypto is about playing chess and looking forward. Markets are forward looking. And if you want to win, you must do this. The stakes are high, and this is a chance to make millions this cycle. So I'm going to go over my strategy, what I'm planning on doing next, the altcoins I'm buying right now that I bought before the Bitcoin ETF launched, and that I'll be buying in the next coming weeks to months. So stay tuned. This is a really juicy episode. I'm your host, Megan Nilsson, aka Crypto Megan. And let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments, please. I love it. I love to connect with all of you. I'm so happy to be back here in Marbella, Spain, in my studio. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So here we have what I was telling you about in the intro. Altcoins are pumping 10 to 30 to 40% for some of them. I mean, this is a really iconic day. Bitcoin has already blown past 48,000 in the first hour of trading. We're heading on up to that $50,000 mark. So I'm going to let you know the exact price targets, because we're not going to get caught up in this euphoria. We must stay level-headed and understand that there's a play here and that the stakes are high. And if you want to make generational wealth this cycle, millions of dollars this cycle, we have got to stick to a plan. So let's go over that now. But first, a little fun.
Hey, everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody, calm down.
This is exactly what I mean. We must stay calm. I'm not trying to shatter the euphoria of the moment. I am soaking it in. I'm here for it. And I am so happy today. This is a historic day. But I'm already thinking about what's next, and I have been. And in fact, in an episode not too long ago, I emphasized, and I went over it many episodes, the Bitcoin, you wake up and the Bitcoin ETF has been approved. Are you happy with your allocation? Have you done enough? Well, if you feel like you've missed the train, do not FOMO, especially not into Bitcoin and the altcoins that have just pumped 30%. Just let it cool off and think about what your next move will be. And hopefully I can provide some clarity on that by the end of this episode. So here's what I've been trying to illustrate. In the last decade, you've had two opportunities to become a millionaire and create generational wealth. One in 2017, one in 2020. Now you have another chance to make it happen this year. Don't F it up. And if I have any say in this, I will not let you F it up. I am here for it. I'm here for you. And I'm going to be with you every step of the way. So you will not be alone in this. I will help you on when I'm taking profits. I will help you with all of it. All that I ask is that you give your 100%. You smash the like button. You let me know in the comments what you want to see more of, what you're liking, what you're not liking, and let's do this. So, all 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs are live, $1 billion in volume in 4 minutes and counting. I mean, this Bitcoin is pumping right now. Bitcoin is pumping. There are buy orders being filled, and a lot of people are saying we're going to blow past all-time highs all the way up to $100,000. Sorry to shatter that, but I do not believe that's going to be true. And for many of you who are feeling like you missed the boat, maybe, this is music to your ears. So I'm going to present a case. Of course, there's no guarantees in crypto, but my case for why I believe we could be seeing a cooling down period here at the end of January based on yesterday's analysis and several other factors. But before that, Plan B. Gotta love Plan B. ETFs are the appetizer. Halving is the main course. and large countries and companies accepting Bitcoin is the dessert. So kind of like the catalyst that'll play out this cycle that could make Bitcoin pump. Don't forget, we've got Elon Musk, who was just in a space the other day saying that he would accept Bitcoin. He was open to accepting Bitcoin on X. He wants to make X an entire financial platform. How do you think he's going to be able to do that? Will he be using traditional bank rails? Are they going to power that? I don't think so. I think he's going to be using crypto, and he has stated that he wants to have that in place by the end of 2024, I believe it was, or 2025. Either way, catalyst. That could be the dessert that Plan B is talking about. But don't forget, tell me the news and I'll show you the charts. These may be catalysts, but this is all already in the charts up until now. You know, cycles don't, there comes a point where maybe the cycles won't repeat anymore, but up until now, we have no reason to believe that that's not what's happening. So we just have to observe and shift if things change. And here we have, ignore the FUD. Money just walked in. And it did. And institutions now have a 6-lane superhighway plug to Bitcoin at the click of a button. And you better believe there's going to be volume pumping into this market. But do I think that this time is different? Do I think we'll blow past into the 500K range this year? We'll break 100,000 before the halving? I really don't think so. I don't think we're there yet. And I think that although people are making price predictions, even Tim Draper, who was on my podcast, who I absolutely love, and I think he's visionary, he even said, you know, I predicted $250,000 by 2023, I believe it was. But what I didn't forecast was that the retailers wouldn't understand the advantage of accepting crypto and the 2% that they save and all of the other things that haven't caught up yet that have to do with mass adoption and people using crypto worldwide. So the technology is there. Everything is in place. It's just a question and a matter of how quickly does this get adopted and when do we have that Steve Jobsian moment that Tim Draper says, where everything is easy, simple at the click of a button, not just for institutions and for investing, but for all transactions.
So that takes me then to your infamous price prediction. Okay, everybody talks about your price prediction because you are a Bitcoin OG, because you have this vision. So you said a few years back that you believe Bitcoin would hit 250,000 by, well, it was going to be by the end of 2023, right? And originally. So
the only reason I was making predictions was I made a prediction on CNBC. Or no, sorry, I did it on Bloomberg Business? No, Fox Business.
Okay.
On Fox Business News, I made a prediction. I said in 3 years it's going to hit $10,000, and that was in 2014. And she looked at me.
They were like, this guy.
This guy's crazy. And then I said drones were going to be a big deal, and she thought, drones, Bitcoin, what are you thinking? Bitcoin at 10,000? What are you thinking? It hit 10,000 exactly on the 3-year mark from the day I was interviewed.
You nailed it.
It was like weird. So I thought, oh, maybe I have this skill. So they asked me again, and I thought, well, okay, I'll try it. And I sort of projected out, and I thought, okay, the software is going to take a couple of years to develop. It's going to have to find the consumer's hands.
Right.
Once it finds the consumer's hands, it's going to be on its way to where it's ubiquitous. And the way it gets to be, when it's ubiquitous, that's probably $1 million to $5 million per Bitcoin when it's everywhere. So we're going to be somewhere on the way there. And so I sort of chose 4 years out, it's going to hit 250,000. That was my thinking. But the date has come and gone. I failed in my prediction, but I still stick to the fact that it's coming.
Right.
A couple of things that I wasn't predicting: how heavily the U.S. government was going to try to protect their dollar and their central bank. I didn't know that they were going to get in the way of progress.
Right.
That was
stifle
one thing.
Innovation instead of make it flourish.
We haven't had a Steve Jobsian moment where he says one button and then it works. Okay, so we haven't made it really simple, except for the business card I gave you that has Bitcoin on it.
Yes, I love that card.
So that's pretty exciting.
It is.
but they haven't made it so that whatever, camera to QR code, everything happens.
UX,
Magic.
UI, totally simple.
You get
Anybody
rid
can,
of
yeah.
like the very complicated, and I know Ledger's coming out with things that are going to be easier to deal with, but still,
Right.
it's still way too complicated. And then the third thing was, I didn't realize that the retailers wouldn't jump on this and say, I can save 2% on every transaction.
Right.
I think Bitcoin has followed the halvening. Some people call it the halving.
I know, it's a mystery, right? What do you call it?
I've called it the halvening forever. And then other people are saying the halving. But anyway, when Bitcoin splits in half and it's harder to mine.
Right.
On the way toward that moment, Bitcoin rises, and then it stays up for a while, and then it drops. And it keeps an interest in Bitcoin while all these engineers are building it so that we can have that Steve Jobsian moment.
Yes, that's what I would say.
And when we have that moment, all of a sudden people will be just going, then the women are going to use it at retail. And when part of it will be when it hits 250,000 or $1 million or $1.5 million or 5 million, it's going to be where people are kind of indifferent as to whether they hold or spend. Right now, it's like, I'm not getting rid of mine.
Right, yeah.
I'm not spending mine. I'm not investing mine. I'm holding on while this thing plays out. And, but there will be a moment where I kind of go, well, or people like retailers won't even take dollars anymore. So that'll be a time when I have to use my Bitcoin to buy whatever it is I'm trying to buy.
And then when that moment happens, the theory is that then that's where Bitcoin becomes virtually, infinite.
Everywhere.
In a sense, and the price follows suit. And in the meantime, we continue to build, we continue to do our thing, although the price doesn't reflect what's being built in the back end by any means, that's what's happening. So I just think like getting positioned now and people just getting aware now is just like you said, you have this vision and you set it and you let it play out.
Yeah, you don't want to be running to the bank to get your dollars and turn them into Bitcoin. You want to have your Bitcoin before that happens.
You want to get positioned.
You want to make sure that you can relax while everybody's panicking.
That's right.
So it's a really, really fun and wild ride, and I'm enjoying it either way. And the stakes are high. The stakes are high, and we must remain focused. Let's play some chess. So here we must go over this, Gary Gensler's letter on the spot Bitcoin ETF approval. And these are the kind of things that make me think that we are not as close to a 500K Bitcoin as many speculate. Because Gary here, our good old buddy Gary Gensler, has approved these spot Bitcoin ETFs, but he basically states, like it says here in the tweet, this happened because the SEC lost the grayscale case, and this is in no way signaling his willingness to approve other crypto asset securities. So he's making his stance clear that basically he was forced into accepting the spot Bitcoin ETFs, because if you see here in this letter, he's saying that the Commission disapproved more than 20 exchange rule filings for spot Bitcoin ETFs, and they're now faced with a set of filings similar to those they disapproved in the past, but circumstances have changed. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia held that the Commission failed to adequately explain its reasoning in disapproving the listing and trading of Grayscale's proposed ETP. So it's basically saying that, he had no plausible reason to deny the Bitcoin ETF, and therefore he had to. But he's making sure that his buddies at the bank and Elizabeth Warren and all his anti-crypto army know that he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it, but he's got to do it, and he's in no way endorsing Bitcoin. I mean, it's just insane, right? If you're allowing the trading of a spot Bitcoin ETF, but you're outrightly saying like, no, I don't like Bitcoin and I don't approve of it, and it's a very risky asset, it's kind of, a little bit contradictory, to say the least. So, yeah, this is in no way a green light from the Gensler, but it is a first massive step, and it allows institutions to dabble, which is, something that Bitcoin's never had before. And this is a monumental moment. So here I have my analysis from yesterday that kind of tied in a little bit with Eric Crown's analysis, and just kind of following up on that, now after all the spot Bitcoin ETFs are now live, like I said yesterday, the average move based on Crown Stats, Eric Crown Stats, 27%. The average days, 19 days. We are now 8 days into this move from the bottom, from the base here. And, we're hitting the top of this move. This move is very mature according to, this read and many other reads as well. We've got the 0.78 fib resistance level at 48,000, a massive level of resistance there. So it's going to be really hard to break through that, despite the fact that we are now trading and we're now live. The charts show otherwise. The charts show that this move is really matured. And that's why I'm saying stay calm, stay cool, stay collected, don't FOMO, and just think, stick to your plan. If you stuck to your plan of buying before the Bitcoin ETF approved, there's no reason to throw the plan out the window now. I mean, this is just the beginning of what the bull market is. And if you go back to the tweet here, it says, now the bull market starts, Crypto Rover, now the bull market starts. But in reality, this bull market has been well underway since January 2023 and possibly, arguably, in December of 2022. So we're in 3 different phases of the bull run. And I love how Steve from Crypto Crew University breaks it down. And I like to gather a lot of data from the top analysts and kind of pair it with my data and my thesis and my analysis. Because don't forget, I was very successful in doing this in the last cycle in my infamous 65x Cardano play. I got into Cardano right at the time period that we're in now, except for we're accelerated right now in the cycle. We're much farther ahead in the cycle than we were in last cycle. But what I mean is there are lots of different evidence and points in the charts that show that now is a relatively good time to be buying altcoins. So I'm going to get into that at the end of the episode. We're going to be going over 3 altcoins that I'm really, really super focused on right now, and also how I think this cycle is going to go. So, okay. So the pivot now has changed from 44,000 up to like around 45,500, meaning the support that we must hold before we would see a downturn in the market or a correction phase. And yeah, we're well into this move. The target move is around 51 to 52% to play out the average move, which is 27%. Sorry, $51 to $52,000. And let's see. We could wick up there and then start a correction, or we could blow right through. And I'm going to explain what it would mean if we did blow right through this resistance level, which wouldn't exactly be good. So if we want a healthy market, if we want a longer bull market, what we're hoping for here is that we cool off for a period of months, maybe into spring, before we start our next parabolic phase of the bull run and Bitcoin going into its new all-time highs, or starting the ascent into its new all-time highs. We want some consolidation from here if that's going to happen. So here's just a little bit more visual of the parabola that Bitcoin is starting to build. And this is the level of support around 45,000 that it needs to hold to continue this parabola. And, this also shows that if it follows this parabola, it could hit into the early 50s to mid 50,000s before it starts its correction, if that's what it's going to do. And here I was talking about Steve from Crypto Crew University. He's really good at breaking things down and making them simple. And I believe that's what we all need in this space. We need things to be simple because you don't have to overcomplicate it. And the truth about these markets are there are a handful of days per year, 4 to 5 times per year, where we have big moves. And the rest is consolidation to the right, down and to the right, up and to the right. It's all consolidation until these pockets of big moves happen. And if you're not allocated, you miss it, which is why our good old friend Warren Buffett, time in the market is much more important than timing the market. If you're not in the market, it's risky because you miss these moves and then you end up chasing it. So what am I going to do now? What is the next play? Let's say you sat this one out and now you're wondering, man, do I still have a chance? Well, here Steve clearly illustrates it, and this coincides with my philosophy as well. Miss the bottom of the bear market for Bitcoin, you may not have missed the train completely. Maybe this could save your day. So here he's showing that in the 2 previous cycles, 2015, 2019, in this phase of the bull run, meaning leading up into the halving, we have not broken all-time highs before the halving. That happens at the end of this phase, which would be in the next, the halving is around April 19th, or programmed to happen in April 19th as of right now. typically we haven't broken into the third phase, which is starting the parabolic phase, until after the halving. So that also coincides with the consolidation period. So do not FOMO. Let's just watch, observe, and react, right? And here it illustrates it a little bit more clearly. He says, Bitcoin has printed 4 bullish candles and is currently testing the top of our fib at 0.786 level on the monthly chart, anticipating a breakthrough or a pullback. So what we should be expecting here is a pullback. What we don't know is this time different? Is it different because all of these billions of dollars in liquidity are flowing in, or is this going to be similar to other cycles? And if it is, then we should have a pullback relatively soon in this mature part of the move. And that's just one hypothesis. Now, another hypothesis that's circulating is, could this be the start of an echo bubble, or will this be an accelerated bull run that is much shorter than most bull runs, and that leads us into a extended bear market as a part of a much larger cycle? So let's dig into this here. Seeing lots of echo bubble talk lately. So this is Bob Lucas on Twitter. Seeing lots of echo bubble talk lately around Bitcoin. Interestingly, I introduced that idea in my first 4-year video back in 2018. So he's calling it a left translated cycle. And so the short gist of it is, on a 4-year time frame, something like only 12 to 18 months up to a peak instead of 32 to 38 months. And he's talking about from the low in the bear market to the top of the bull. So if this were to happen, then the top would come much more quickly and we'd be in a long extended bear market after that. So because there is a longer date cycle, possibly a 16-year cycle that is due to turn down and make its run to the cycle low, on that time frame, the final or the fourth 4-year cycle would be the true bear cycle. So he's saying that then we would go into this long extended bear market after a 16-year, part of a bigger 16-year market or cycle, and that we would start that at the end of this cycle, which would be a shorter cycle. Sorry for all the cycle talk, but I just want to give you guys kind of like a vision of what could happen, because if we're playing chess, we need to kind of put all of the scenarios out on the table, and that's how you win in this market. So where my view differs is that a fast move to test exceed all-time highs sooner than it did in prior cycles is likely a final impulsive move, whereas echo bubble folks are likely looking for a resumption of the primary uptrend after a sizable correction. So what he's saying is, if it runs up to 100K now before the halving, it's likely it for Bitcoin, that will be the top, and then we'll have, the money flow into Ethereum, large caps, and finish out our cycle in that way much earlier than anticipated. Whereas most people will be saying this is just the beginning. So we must always be wary of these kind of situations. A strong surge off the low is okay. A eco bubble is bearish in my book. I see it as a left translated too. But to be honest, I'm not sold on it coming up this cycle. So he's saying he thinks that if this happens, it's most likely in the next cycle that we enter this long extended period of a bear market to reset our bigger macro market trend. But here he's saying the good news is that a left-translated cycle generally has far more gusto in the early phase, thus the eco-bubble analogy. So if we see some type of early outsized move relative to the past 4-year cycles, we will know the cycle differs already. So the answer to, is this time different? So the good news is, if we do have this left-translated cycle, then we'll get a lot of big gains really quickly, which nobody will complain about. But then we must be on guard after that happens. And this is why I've been stressing, are you happy with your allocation? Have you been planning? Have you been allocating? Have you been buying instead of waiting for that magical opportunity? Because you never know. And if it's a generally good time to buy, not financial advice, but just what I do and how I've been successful in these markets, I don't wait for that magic number. I'm averaging in all the time during those times that it's typically a good time to buy. So this is the conclusion. Ideally, let's wish for a mostly consolidating and base building 2023. It would set up another great cycle, and yes, one accepted by those already in Bitcoin. Then we can save the less translated cycle for 2026 to 2030. So what he's saying is, let's hope for consolidation. Let's hope for the other end of the spectrum, where maybe we hit 50 to 52,000, and from there we go down and to the right in consolidation for a long extended period of time. That would be healthy. That would be building a foundation on top so that we could have a healthy foundation to start the next leg of the bull run from, because otherwise it's just not sustainable. So I found that to be really interesting, and those are these are some of the things I'm taking into consideration as I'm planning my strategy for the altcoins, because I am no longer buying Bitcoin at these levels. I am focused on altcoins, particularly right now Ethereum, which leads me into the next part of this analysis. From Raoul Pal, an esteemed investor and economist, is talking about Ethereum. All eyes are on Ethereum. And actually, they already were, as if you noticed, when we had the fake news from the SEC the other day, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin. It pumped 7%. And it is set to blast off. And what I'm seeing on Twitter and all of the influencers and things saying that Ethereum's dead, it's all about Solana, just ignore that noise. It is not true. And Ethereum will have its run for one simple reason, if not just for the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only two crypto assets that have been ruled commodities, and they're safe. They are not securities, and institutions want what's safe. They want what's been deemed given the green light by the SEC, and that's what they're going to be buying. So why don't we go with what's easy and what's obvious, right? Instead of all the hype and the trends and what everybody else is saying. So here we go. The ETH Bitcoin cross, picture perfect, number one. So here we have Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart primed to break out. It's looking spectacular. And the business cycle is highly positive, ETH versus BTC based on liquidity. All that fast money that front-ran the Bitcoin ETH may well switch to front-running the ETH ETF. ETH is 1/3 the market cap, so if the same capital moves to ETH from BTC, expect fireworks. So he's just saying that if some portion of this money from Bitcoin flows now into Ethereum, I mean, that is exponentially more impact because of the market cap. So it's the obvious next play. You ride that wave, and this is the flow of money in the cycles. If you haven't been around for multiple cycles, then maybe you haven't seen this, but the rotation of capital. We start in Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin show. We pay attention to Bitcoin dominance, and at some point, Bitcoin will peak and consolidate, and the money will flow into Ethereum, then large caps, then mid caps, small caps, and finally NFTs. So this is how it's going to go, and it's how it's always gone. And there's even more reason for it to go this way now that we're looking at an Ethereum ETF. So let's say the same thing again. Are you happy with your Ethereum allocation? If you wake up and the Ethereum ETF has been approved, are you happy with what you have? Or are you going to be chasing? So maybe we'll get an Ethereum ETF approved by spring or in the coming months. It seems much more likely now that we have the Bitcoin ETF approved, and I'm planning on that, and that's what I'm looking ahead to. So here are some price targets for Ethereum. We've broken out of this area at 2,400. When I started my 200-day to Bitcoin halving countdown, I was saying to buy Ethereum here around $1,700. That's where I was buying heavily as well. And here we are. If you missed that boat, we're in another good boat. We're right below this level here at 2,700. And, the price targets are all the way up to 3,600. So will we have a cool down period before we resume this uptrend? We don't know. But all we do know is if I expect Ethereum to hit up to 10K this cycle, $10,000, then what does it matter if you buy it now at 2,500 or you buy it at 2,000? It's all a relatively good buy, and we cannot time the markets, and that is the point. So next up, my beloved Cardano, the ADA gang, where you at? If you're here, please leave a comment. I absolutely love Cardano. I think that Charles Hoskinson is just a visionary leader. And if there's anybody that can do this right, it's him. And I'm very confident in what they're building, and it just keeps growing year after year. And the TVL, I've got the statistics here. More than 700 million ADA locked in DeFi and counting. Cardano ADA TVL looks primed to go absolutely insane. ADA is on fire. It pumped about 20% today. Really, really crazy stuff. And then we have a tweet here. The top of the market is ADA ETF, kind of like, poking fun, like, okay, if we get an ADA ETF, then that's the end of the market. But the reality is I think this is a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. And especially as we get more and more clarity, and as Charles Hoskinson pushes for clarity from the SEC as to what are the measurements for how things are decentralized. I mean, he clearly wants to work with them. And the institutions already have some exposure in their private investment funds like Grayscale. So if you look at their GDLC, the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund, you'll see that they are dabbling. Here are some of their assets. They've got Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is obvious, but they've also got some allocations to others, including XRP, ADA, AVAX, which is one of my gems for this cycle. It's got a much lower market cap, and I believe AVAX is going to do phenomenal this cycle. I'm more focused on AVAX, in fact, than Solana. I like Solana, but I'm accumulating AVAX, and they've got Cardano. They got 1.41% allocation to Cardano, and they're just the institutions. What they want is security and clarity, but these are the assets that they already have on their radar. So we are close. And just as I wrap this up, I want to just remind you of this chart that I've been talking about since I started this 200 day to Bitcoin halving countdown. And I started talking about Cardano down here at 26 cents. I had all these price targets mapped out. We've blown through all of them and things are looking good. Here's where I bought right around last cycle. Here's where the halving was. And then 1 year later is when Cardano started its epic ascent into its, blow off top territory. But we're already well ahead of where we were last cycle. As you can see, we've already broken all the key moving averages, and we hadn't done that yet at this point. So we're definitely ahead this cycle, but it's still a relatively amazing buy, right? And we're going to zoom in a little bit more. As you can see, there's some resistance here, and Cardano might have a cooling off period as well. But if I believe that Cardano could make it to $6, $8, or even $10 for a blow off top this cycle, then 58 cents is one hell of a buy. It was a hell of a buy at 26 cents, and it's still a good buy at 58 cents. And I'm still buying at these levels. I'll be averaging in. And I think that this year is going to be absolutely phenomenal for Cardano. And that's just what I'm looking at now. I really believe that Cardano is one of the next ones to see a phenomenal run. It usually doesn't pump like others, or it takes a little bit longer than others, but my confidence is high. I'm all about the ADA gang. And last but not least, we've got XRP. Now, XRP, we want to thank Brad Garlinghouse and the Ripple team for being on the forefront of the lines, and for fighting, and for really going after the SEC and trying to make a statement. I mean, we owe all the thanks to them for this movement, to Ripple, XRP, and Coinbase and Grayscale for making this all happen. And so, as you all know, XRP was cleared as not a security, and the team was cleared as well. And so XRP, in my opinion, should be on everybody's radar. I am averaging in at these levels as well. And here I have some price targets. The last all-time high was 384. It's one of the only ones that didn't reach its all-time high last cycle. And I believe that this year is going to be a phenomenal year for XRP. So I am laser focused on XRP, and the price to hone in on that will be, the most important level is here around 75 cents. As you can see, we've got massive confluence around that area of support and resistance. Once we break that 75 cent mark, fireworks. XRP will absolutely rip, and you're still in time. You're still in time. That is the final message of this stream, is that you are still in time to become a millionaire this cycle if you play your cards right, and or to make millions, or whatever your goal may be, depending on your capital allocation, of course. I don't know that, but you are set and primed for success. People will be making generational wealth this cycle. And here we have it. Here we have the playbook. If you just stick to the playbook, your success is nearly guaranteed. Again, not financial advice, but after my years of experience in these markets, we have it right here. This is it. So if you're wondering what you should do next, this is what I'm looking at. I'm hoping for a consolidation period, because that's what will be healthiest for Bitcoin and for the entire space. We've got the halving coming up in April on April 19th, and we may be coming up on that correction that I've been anticipating on this channel, between 25 to 40% even, the correction that has happened in all previous cycles, and that would be an incredible opportunity, even though now is still a good opportunity. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I'll see you tomorrow.